Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Jewish Inspiration Podcast. To all of our friends on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, thank you for joining us. There's a little bit of a different setup than we typically have. That's because of what we just announced on our Torch Zoom program, that we are middle of broadcasting a series of videos on a panel discussion about Pesach. I hope you can find it on YouTube/Torch Web. You can find the 3 videos talking about the complete Passover guide. Part 2 of that series is coming out hopefully tomorrow or the next day, where we're going to discuss Magid, the long, lengthy discussion of the tale of the Jewish people and our Exodus is going to be discussed in great detail. Okay, but now back to our regular project self-studies. We've discussed over the past couple of weeks, we've discussed the idea of fear. What is fear? And as we mentioned, as we discussed, we are, what is fear? Remember, we discussed fear is understanding our place, is having the proper perspective. We say if you walk into most synagogues, they have a magnificent 4 words from Psalms, which is Shiviti Hashem lenegdi tamid, that I place the Almighty opposite me or in front of me at all times. And that is a very, very important idea to put things into the proper perspective. We're gonna connect this with Pesach, which is just this weekend ahead of us. We're going to talk about and connect it to this idea of Yira. But the idea of why it's so important is because in order to live a stress-free life, in order to have a life that is without stress, we have to have that proper perspective. It's very easy to get carried away in the world we're living in and thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to control this circumstance? How am I going to control that? And people don't know how they're going to make ends meet. People don't know how things are going to work out ultimately. And what we need to constantly be reminded, and we spoke about this in the previous weeks, in trusting Hashem, that is that we work on putting our trust in Hashem. Hashem will get us the job we want, and the job we need, the job that's right for us. Hashem will find us the things that we need, but we have to relinquish our own will to control everything and put it in the hands of Hashem. Hashem li lo ira, we mentioned. Hashem is with me. When I know that Hashem is with me, meaning I put my trust in Hashem, I have nothing to worry. I have nothing to fear. I don't know if I mentioned this story, but I need to share an amazing story. I mentioned this we said this in the Musar Mondays class 2 weeks ago, but I think it's so relevant to Pesach, I want to share it here as well. If I shared it already, please forgive me. I apologize for repeating it again. But it's an amazing story. The great holy Levi Yitzchak from Berditchev it was the Seder night, and he's about to start the Seder, and all his Hasidim, all his followers are standing around, and they're ready to get the Seder started. And the Rebbe says, before I start the Seder, I need tabak. Tabak is snuff. I need snuff from Turkey. Now, then there was an embargo between Russia and Turkey. They were in a war, and you were not allowed to have any Turkish items. You weren't allowed to have Turkish snuff. You weren't allowed to have Turkish linen. You weren't allowed to have Turkish rugs. You weren't allowed to have any of that. But the Rebbe said to his Hasidim, we're not starting the Seder till I get some Turkish snuff. He said, we're not allowed to. If there's a penalty of death for anybody who's found with snuff made from Turkey in their possession. Right? He says, I don't care. I want that snuff. So they went house to house, and they asked all of the people in the town, does anybody know where does anybody have snuff from Turkish snuff? And people were saying, you're not allowed to have it, and this and that. But at the end of the day, they got it. They bring it back to the holy Levi Yitzchak from Berditchev, and they give him the snuff. He says, thank you so much. He says, now before we begin the Seder, I need one more thing. I need a Turkish fabric. a specific Turkish fabric. And they tell the Rebbe, don't you know there's an embargo? There's a life sentence for anybody who is caught with this product. He says, I don't care. I cannot begin the Seder till I find this Turkish fabric. So they go around house to house and they finally find the fabric and they bring it to the Rebbe. And now the Rebbe is ready to start the Seder. He says, 1 second, one more thing I need before we start the Seder. He says, I want you to go to all the homes and I want you to bring me chametz. I want you to bring me chametz. And they look at the Rebbe, they're like, what are you talking about? He says, go, I'm not starting the Seder till you find chametz. And they go house to house and they search house to house and they cannot find one morsel of chametz. And they go back to the Rebbe and they say to the Rebbe, I'm sorry, but we could not find chametz. He says, look, Hashem, look how beautiful your children are. He says, there's a death penalty for anybody who has snuff, and we can find snuff. There is a death penalty for anybody who has fabric, and yet we found fabric. But there's no death penalty for someone having chametz. You just commanded it in your Torah that there shouldn't be chametz in the Jewish homes. And there's not a single morsel of chametz in any of the Jewish homes. Look at your children. Look how amazing they are. That without a death penalty, without any of those fearsome, punishments, nobody has chametz in their house. You know why? Because your children are the most special children in the world. Why? Because we fear Hashem. Because we understand the perspective that is necessary in order for us to succeed in our lives. We understand that we need to have a relationship that is clear between us and the Almighty. What Pesach does is Pesach puts everything into that frame of mind. We realize the Almighty loves us. He takes us out of bondage. He takes us out of exile. And He brings us to freedom. God splits the sea for us. He feeds us 40 years, right? Day and night, every single day we get our manna. On time. Delivered. The most amazing thing. The Jewish people are taken care of. All we need is perspective. All we need is an understanding for us to know exactly who, what, where, when, exactly the relationship that we have between us and the Almighty. So that's a little bit to get us into the frame of mind of the Seder. We have to understand that there's an amazing, amazing piece on the Seder, and I think this is probably the most powerful thing I've ever learned from my grandfather. My grandfather, every Seder night, would say this. He'd say an amazing thing. It says in the Pesach Seder, in the Haggadah, we say a beautiful collection of praises to the Almighty. In the song Dayenu, we all love to sing Dayenu, right? Dayenu, Dayenu, right? And what are we saying in those words? Dayenu means it would be enough. Enough, right? It would be enough. We say it's like you have, you're being so someone takes care of you, they invite you to their house, and they give you a clean bed to sleep in, and they give you food to eat, and delicious drinks to drink, and they take care of you, and they give you a ride wherever you need. And you say, you know what, if you only took me in, that would be enough. But no, you gave me food to eat, and you gave me drinks to drink, and you gave me a ride wherever I needed, and you gave me money, and you gave me, right? You're thanking them for each thing. If you would have just taken one, it would have been enough, right? And what we're saying to the Almighty is, had you only split the sea, that would be enough. If you would, pass us on dry land, that would be enough. If you would just protect us in the desert, that would be enough. But Hashem gave us everything. Now, one of the amazing pieces that we add in this amazing, amazing song is the thanks to Hashem for bringing us to Mount Sinai. If you had only brought us to Mount Sinai but didn't give us the Torah, Dayenu, that would be enough. Now, I don't know about you. It's like the equivalent, and the example I give many, many times about this is that it's the equivalent of me taking my children to the ice cream store. And my children saying in return, if you only brought us to the ice cream store but didn't give us ice cream, that would be enough. Well, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why take me to the ice cream store if you're not going to give me the ice cream? Why bring us to Mount Sinai and not give us the Torah? What would be so great about that? Right? That's a good question. That's a great question. Why in the world would you bring us to Mount Sinai and not give us the Torah? Would that be so great? That would be so awesome. Our sages tell us an amazing thing. Because the Torah is teaching us an incredible, incredible lesson. Judaism is not a religion. Judaism is a relationship. God didn't bring us to Mount Sinai to give us a Torah. God brought us to Mount Sinai to give us a relationship. It's an amazing, let this sink in. The reason for going to Mount Sinai was to get a relationship. It wasn't to get the Torah. We've brought this many different examples, comparing it to an engagement where the girl says all it counts is the ring. No, it's not the ring. The ring symbolizes the relationship, right? That's what makes the ring special. Someone just randomly on the street gives you a ring, you're not going to feel necessarily that this is such a special ring to want to show it off to everyone, unless it's really, really expensive, right? But typically, it's not going to have any meaning. Why? Because the ring only gets its meaning for the relationship that's behind it. So the whole relationship is encompassed in this ring. The ring that we got from the Almighty is the Torah. But what makes it special is the relationship behind it. You understand? Okay? That means that had Hashem only taken us to Mount Sinai, given us the Torah, meaning not given us the Torah, but we would have that relationship, that would be enough. So why do we need the Torah? Our sages ask, why do we need the Torah then? If it's all about the relationship, what do we need the Torah for? Sages say an incredible thing. And that is that the purpose of the Torah is like a souvenir. When you go on vacation, you're talking about, right, Bobby and all of you on torchzoom.com, right? So you're all talking about what you're going to do now that we have vaccines and we're feeling a little bit the opening of the gates of the pandemic. They're finally opening, and now we can go. We can feel some freedom. We can, right? So now, what are we going to do? So everyone's talking about the vacations they're going to go to, all the places they're going to go, and it's very nice, right? It's very exciting. What do you do when you go on vacation? You bring back something special. What do you bring back that's special? Well, everybody has something else that they enjoy, right? So some people I collect shot glasses. So for those of you who don't know, right? But it's only from places that I went to. It doesn't help for me to just get shot glasses from random places, right? I only want to go from places that I actually went to. So everyone has different souvenirs. Some people collect postcards, and some people collect magnets, and some keychains, and some spoons. You know, they have all of these different things that people collect from various different places that they go to. What is the purpose of all of this? Why do people collect these souvenirs from these places? Who needs it? What's the purpose of it? Our sages tell us an amazing thing. Okay, the Torah is a souvenir as well. The purpose of the souvenir is to bring back and recall that great experience. So what happens? You go to Antarctica. You go to Antarctica and you want to remember, now I'm going to go back to Houston. I don't want to just forget my experience in Antarctica. So I'm going to buy something. I'm going to buy a keychain. Every time I look at that keychain, you'll say, oh, you were in Antarctica? Yeah, you have no idea. And you go through, you recall the entire experience again and again. You go to Mexico, you go to Israel, you go wherever you go around the world, and you bring back that souvenir and you see it on your fridge. You're like, oh, you remember that? And you're sitting there with your coffee, like, oh, and you bring back that whole experience again. You relive that whole experience. The Torah is one big souvenir that has 613 reminders, special reminders to bring back the experience of the revelation that God connected with us on Mount Sinai. That is the purpose of the entire Torah. The entire Torah, the Jewish people standing there, and they have this awesome revelation at Mount Sinai. And now they're saying, oh, what are we going to do now? How are we going to hold this in for forever? What are we going to do to keep this experience alive so that 3,300 years later, when we're sitting in Houston, Texas, how are we going to recall that experience? How are we going to bring that relationship to life again? Hashem says, I'm going to give you 613 souvenirs, that each one of them has the ability, every time you pass the mezuzah on the door, you can feel that connection again. Every time a person puts on tefillin, every time a person keeps Shabbos, every single one of those mitzvahs has the ability to bring back that relationship to its original state. It's like a woman who's wearing her engagement ring. Every moment she looks at that ring, she's bringing up the entire relationship again. The entire connection that she has is brought up by looking at that ring. When we look in our Torah, when we study our Torah, when we experience and observe the Torah, what we're doing is bringing back that connection. So when we talk about this trait of yirah, of perspective, what we need to do is recognize the relationship and how special it is, the relationship between us and the Almighty. The Almighty loves us. The Almighty wants good for us. The Almighty wants to have us close. That's the goal, the whole purpose of everything we have in our lives is for that closeness, is for that connection. And that's what we're yearning for. What we're yearning for is yearning for the connection between us and the Almighty to be solid. That's what we're looking for. So, during our prayers, what do? By the way, just going back to the Dayenu, right? So now it makes a lot of sense. Had God only brought us to Mount Sinai and didn't give us the Torah, why would that be sufficient? Why do we say Dayenu? That would have been enough. You know why? Because the whole purpose of bringing us to Mount Sinai was not to give us the Torah. That was the added bonus we got. That was the added bonus. We got a treat. What was the treat? We also got the souvenir to remember that relationship. But what we really went to Mount Sinai for was to have a relationship with God. For God to reveal himself to the Jewish people, where the Jewish people heard with their own ears, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. That is the purpose of why the Jewish people were brought to Mount Sinai. Not to receive the Torah. The purpose of the Torah is for us to have a recollection, for us to have a way to bring back that experience every day. And we also got that, by the way. So we didn't only get the relationship, but we got the tools, the mechanism for us to bring back and recall all of the amazing miracles, all of the amazing relationship, all the amazing miracles that we experience every single day of our lives. So when we stand in prayer, during prayer, you know what we do? What we do is we don't say words. I once had an individual tell me, I used to have a Shabbos morning class before COVID. I had a Shabbos morning class where I would do the talk about the parsha and we talk about prayer. And I had one individual, and after the class, I would tell them, here, go into the synagogue. You can go into the main sanctuary and join the congregation, feel part of the whole community. So I had one individual. He says to me, "I'm out. I'll see you later." I said, "What's going on? Is everything okay?" He says, "Look, me and prayer don't get along." I said, "What do you mean you and prayer don't get along?" He says, "You have to understand, I'm so frustrated from prayer. I'm so frustrated." I said, "Why are you frustrated from prayer? What happened?" He says, "You have to understand, I go to synagogue, and all of the prayer, I'm running after the chazan, trying to figure out where he's holding, turning pages back and forth. By the time I'm done, I'm like, oh, finally, we're